My name is Clerah Sethole. The name of my initiative is Exclusively Inclusive. I grew up in a township called Kutong in Morafong and then later relocated to the restaurant in Randfontein. Went to a predominantly rural school. There were not a lot of opportunities, but we had a lot of educators who saw potential in us and wanted to hone what they saw. Growing up as the only child, I always found comfort in helping other people and interacting with people and finding out what best way I can assist them. And so I love working with people. I love reading. I love interacting. I love being the center of attention. I love seeing people having fun and just being themselves. I think for a lot of us who applied, the reason why we applied because we saw Trevor Noah and we were like, Trevor Noah Foundation. So we applied for that. And then I think the criteria that they were looking for, they wanted people who were in the education space. They wanted people who were bringing changes and had innovative ideas on how to change their spaces. So that caught my eye because when you look or when you think of Mr. Noah, you think of comedy but you see him venturing into something that is like education. You wonder, maybe this is something that could be beneficial for me. So I applied because of the criteria that they had, and I felt this is an opportunity that I've been waiting for. Getting into this program would change my life and how I do things as well as an education changemaker. I always say my highlight was a lecture by Mr. Raleshaba, human design thinking. It sort of puts you in a space where you have to think about the project that you're doing. That you're not just doing your project for the sake of, okay, I have an idea, how do I implement this? It's sort of like challenged how you thought. Is the program that you're doing relevant to the people that you're offering the service to? Does it need to be refined? And also interacting with other education change makers, you see that even though we are all from the SADC region, but a lot of us have the same problems in the education space. Regardless where you are, we all have issues with overcrowding. We all have issues with nutrition. We all have issues with teachers being overworked and underpaid. We all have issues with teachers not being heard. So it was interesting to be in a space where people understand your frustrations and people who have ideas on how to improve their environment. People are not just there and complaining and whining, but people who actually want to do something and they are doing something. So Exclusively Inclusive, it's an organization and ad tech company. We focus on facilitating sessions for children with learning disabilities, raising awareness in communities and in schools about learning disabilities, especially dyslexia and ADHD. So what we do, we are developing a curriculum for specific communities that we're in through an app and a website to educate educators about learning disabilities, how to identify a child with learning disabilities, the different tools that they can use in those spaces. Because when we talk about learning disabilities, in most cases, it's inclusive education, but it can't be inclusive education if that child is taken out of the comfortable space that they're in and they're placed in a special school. That is where the gap is. Because as soon as you remove the child from this education space that they're in and you place them in a special school, now there's the stigma that comes after that, which is why a lot of these children drop out of school, and they don't drop out of school because they want to. They drop out of school because they're frustrated. They don't know what is wrong with them because no one reassures them that they are just wired differently, and no one educates the parent about the learning disability that the child has, and no one educates the educator themselves. This is how you can help the child as long as they are not placed. So we're trying to create an inclusive environment where children, educators, parents, and communities can come together and say, I am proudly dyslexic. I am proudly someone who has ADHD, and I can thrive into that. So we're trying to bring inclusive education in all our spaces, in libraries, in schools, in shops, to say they too need recognition. As much as people with physical disabilities are recognized, we need children with learning disabilities to be recognized. It is about time that children with learning disabilities have examples from South Africa, people who have learning disabilities in South Africa, that they can look up to. So the grant has helped us implement the project in one primary school, and facilitating sessions with educators, and also interacting with communities and teaching them about learning disabilities. Because we find it very important that if we facilitate training and workshops for educators and interact with parents, we find it much more simpler to also interact with communities to teach them about learning disabilities. And because if we have a community that is learned and woke about learning disabilities, it makes it more simple for us to identify children with learning disabilities, to place them in schools, and to identify children who have already dropped out of school, to make sure that these children are integrated into our learning system, and they too are given a chance to get their fair chance to education and be successful. The first thing that we had to do was to pay our curriculum developer, because the curriculum that we use, it is not a curriculum that is adopted from Google or wherever. It is a curriculum that is specifically developed for that specific community that we are in. So the first thing that we did, we had to pay a curriculum developer. The second thing is to draw up the type of app that we have, to launch a website, and to set up a support classroom for children with learning disabilities. And it's also went towards transportation to collect stats to different district departments who have statistics and data of children with learning disabilities. How many children do we have in Black communities? How many have been placed in special schools? And how many still need to be placed? And how many we can help in that respective community. So this is the message to Mr. Noah himself. Thank you so much for the opportunity you're giving to people who are in the education space. Most of the time we go unheard, and all we need is assistance from people to recognize the work that we do. It takes courage. It takes a lot of work for people like myself to go into spaces and say, we are funded. We are partially funded by Trevor Noah Foundation, and your work is amazing, and you recognizing us has opened up doors for us. And to the Trevor Noah Foundation, thank you so much for always being there to assist us in whatever that we need. You are always there to listen to us and our frustrations. You guys are the best, and thank you. May the work that you're doing continue to many more other people in spaces of education. Thank you.